questions.
Can we just get your reaction to the jobs report?
The president has presided over the most extraordinary economic turnaround in American history. During the Biden administration, we saw zero net job gains for American workers in 4 years, which is an economic depression for American workers. It's an actual depression. Since President Trump has came into office, 100% of job gains have gone to American workers, as millions of foreign workers who are here illegally have left the country. So this is the biggest economic turnaround in American history. On top of that, you have $4 trillion from the CBO. It's going to be much more than that coming into the Treasury from the tariffs, the historic trade policy. You have well over $15 trillion of pledged foreign investment coming into the country to revitalize the economy, and you have the passage of the largest package of tax cuts and reforms in American history. So we are living through the most successful, extraordinary economic revival. You see car plants coming in, you see steel plants coming in, you see manufacturing plants coming in. You're going to see all these critical industries, pharmaceuticals, chips, semiconductors, reshoring. It is truly the great American revival that President Trump has unleashed. And of course, we're also going to, we have seen the most extraordinary job growth for American workers and American citizens that we've seen in recent history, coming off a period of 4 years where every single job went to a foreign worker. Foreign workers are now leaving the economy. American workers are getting all the benefits. And of course, we have larger issues to deal with, the integrity of BLS that President Trump has spoken about. And we're going to get that fixed, and we're going to get honest and accurate jobs numbers. Next question.
All right, guys, I'm starting to think that job numbers got sabotaged by the lack of interest in cutting the rates. Now, it's pretty much guaranteed. This is good news for if you're looking to get a house, borrow money. This is good news for you. You know, the job reports came way weaker than expected, I believe. I forgot the numbers exactly, but as you saw from the intro, you saw that was Stephen Miller really highlighting all the wins, all the positives of Trump's economic agenda. The job numbers still need some work. A lot of people are complaining online. I see it a lot online that, you know, there's layoffs going on. There's people who can't find work. And I do believe that is a big problem, because at the end of the day, you can't take advantage of the rates if you don't got steady income coming in to actually pay down that debt. And one of the things that many people who was pushing Jerome Powell to make the rate cuts as fast as possible, like, hey, look, we're hovering around 2%. We're hovering around 2%. We're hovering around 2%. Like, what, 5 out of the 6 times Trump proved them wrong. He came in lower than expected, and Jerome didn't want to cut the rates. He could have accelerated that, because a lot of these companies, a lot of these corporations, they borrow a lot of debt to finance a lot of these initiatives that they drive for their business, for products and their services. And they need to borrow money again to kind of be able to have budget to fill out or to pay a lot of these people their salaries. And the fact that the interest rates were still so high, a lot of companies couldn't justify it anymore. And this is why you're starting to see layoffs. This is why you're starting a lot of people doing hiring freeze. They don't want to hire people. They're making people who survive layoffs do 3 times 4 people's jobs, because they have to drive more productivity out of the spend they're already spending. And this is kind of the trickle down effect that happens with how allowing a human like the Federal Reserve to dictate what or have heavy influence over the rates. And with this week job numbers, many people are saying that it's now solidified that we're going to get rate cuts this year. Now, I want to kind of turn the conversation back. I want to highlight this clip I see of Scott Bessent pushing back on this narrative about the tariffs. As you saw, Stephen Miller was bragging about how tariffs help bring in new revenue towards the Treasury, all that jazz. And Kristen Welker, you know, usual suspect, is going to try to frame this. Oh, look, Goldman Sachs said this. And one thing I want to highlight on these videos and a lot of these like data that the liberal media and these liberal journalists love to use as sources. End of the day, no matter if it's a big corporation or some so-called educated experts, this is just a bet. Take this as a bet. Hey, Goldman Sachs bets that tariffs will the cost of tariffs will go to consumers and corporations, right? This is the bet that Goldman Sachs is making. And I think the way that Scott Bessent kind of like handled this question highlights the fact that a lot of these liberal media hosts, especially these so-called journalists, they rely a lot on the fallacy of authority. Let's take a look.
Kristen, if things are so bad, why was the GDP 3.3%? Why is the stock market at a new high? Because, you know, with President Trump, we care both about big companies and small companies. And you're quoting big companies, but the big company index, the S&P, is at a new high.
Hasbro says they're going to have to increase their prices. Goldman Sachs says 86% of the tariff revenue collected so far has been paid by American businesses and consumers. So just bottom line, Mr. Secretary, do you acknowledge that these tariffs are a tax on American consumers?
No, I don't.
Even though you have companies saying they are going to have to increase prices, and given the fact that 86% of these tariffs so far have been paid by Americans.
You're quoting Goldman Sachs. So
yes, Goldman Sachs, correct.
I made
Which
a good,
I said, yeah.
I made a good career trading against Goldman Sachs.
Okay.
Now, I just want to bring this to, you guys' attention. So this is the video, I got the clip from, right? And he made he said, hey, Scott Bessent, hey, he was running up a bag on on Goldman Sachs, right? This is just an opinion. Like when he references these sources, this is why I don't take expert stuff serious. Oh, I took the word of an expert. The expert says this. What is the data? What they're basing that opinion on? That's all you need to ask. Show your work. You know one of the reasons why a lot of people don't like math? Because you can't just answer the question. You got to show your work. Or the math teacher ain't going to give you full marks for your answer. He's going to say how you arrived to that conclusion. And this is the kind of questions that I think many Americans are asking. How do these experts arrive to these conclusions that they're driving? Confession, I'm old enough to remember August 2024 when almost 1 million jobs simply vanished. And the media came out and essentially disregarded, fears that Americans had about a possible recession happening under Biden. And this is the narrative propaganda machine that liberal bias produce and corrupts journalism with. So funny how they pretend everything was so great under the Biden regime. We're in a recession the moment we went back to back-to-back quarters at negative 1.5. The deep state responded by changing the definition of recession. Y'all remember that? And the corporate press rewrote the history to make it appear as though we never had one. Corporate media is lying to convince us of everything is great. Talks of recession is dying down in corporate America. But what was Americans saying? And this is the kind of narrative game that many people throughout history has warned that, media is the most dangerous entity in the Western hemisphere, right? Can make a good economy bad and a bad economy good. This is what the game the media is trying to do. And I'm tired of this version of storytelling when I think all Americans want is just information that's accurate with all the available data points that we have. And I think it's very important to, have these discussions, talk about these things, but show your work. That's all I ask these experts to do. Show your work. Now, I want to keep reacting to Stephen Miller taking questions after the disappointing August job numbers. And I want to know your thoughts and perspective about, do you believe that the Fed intentionally or unintentionally sabotaged the job numbers? Because if they had cut the rates, I don't honestly believe, if they had cut the rates sooner, let's say when kind of what Trump wanted, even if it's not the full half basis point that he want, at least 25, gradually cut here and there and wait and see. I don't think we'll get this job report number at the state that we do today. So let's get into what Scott Bessent has to say about the job data. I want to keep focusing on Scott Bessent because I really want to focus on this job report and kind of see his opinion on this stuff and see what he has to say. I already know the media is already trying to spin this as a job recession. So now they're being very selective with their language, as you saw from my prior commentary with Stephen Miller, and how they're already trying to, downplay or try to pretend that, China's economy, it was so hunky-dory, right? So I want to continue with this. I want to kind of give more, my thoughts on this. So let's continue down this road. Let's go.
That Moody's chief economist called this a jobs recession. I want to give you the opportunity to respond to Mark Zandi. Do you see this as a jobs recession?
Well, Kristen, when I was here with you in April, there was a panic because the stock market had gone down, and you remained pretty calm, but a lot of other mainstream media people were in a complete lather over the stock market performance. President Trump, they held the views on tariffs. He was proven right. We had the quickest stock market recovery in history. We're at new highs in August, and we're not going to do economic policy off of one number. We believe that good policies are in place that are going to create good, high-paying jobs.
And this one thing I just want to throw in there too is that when Trump was getting these good job numbers, like 4 straight months in a row, they weren't saying, "Oh my God, it's a roaring jobs." Like they didn't hype it up, right? But the minute, like he pointed out, Scott Bessent made a great point. Hey, you get one job numbers, and all of a sudden they saying gloom and doom. They did this last time when Trump experienced. I'll forget which quarter it was. I think it was the second quarter of this year that he had a negative GDP growth, and people were already calling a Trump recession. And then next quarter, quarter three, it didn't happen. The recession was like where, and this is where the GDP thing was up 3.3%, right? So these are some of the things that hurts the credibility of these so-called experts. And this is why I caution many people when you hear all this fear-mongering in the news. I would always want Americans to default to more of a neutral position. It's not always as good as they hype it up to be, and it's not always as bad as they hype it up to be. That's all. I'm gonna just leave it off at there, and let's continue with this because I think this is a very interesting kind of pushback that Scott Bessent is offering, that he's showing you the track record. He's showing you the historical evidence. We all saw it. They were doom and gloom about all this stuff, all the panicking over the tariffs, and they were proven wrong and wrong and wrong. Like, these people don't have the track record to have the American people to sway most Americans' opinion, or should not sway most Americans' perception or opinion on the economy. And I'm starting to see that effect. I see Donald Trump's approval ratings being affected by this, by his handling of inflation, because of the fact that the media, they keep pushing and hyping the negative numbers, right? When there's good things to talk about this economy. I just showed you in the intro with Stephen Miller, right? And this is some of the ways that, liberal bias kind of corrupts people's perception of things. And I think once more and more Americans wake up to this and start disregarding a lot of the hyperbolic predictions that these so-called experts who happen to be liberals say, I think people would be less hysterical about a lot of this new stuff. But I digress. Let's continue with the discussion.
For the American people. Two, let's look at the efficacy of this number. August is the noisiest month of the year. Typically, the highest revisions come in August. That's why it's important that we have good data. Austin Goolsbee, who's head of the Chicago Fed and probably the most partisan person at the Federal Reserve in leadership, came out and said, I don't know if these numbers were that weak. I don't know if I'm going to vote for a cut in September because it may have something to do with the immigration deportations. So this is why we need good data. Three, if in fact these numbers are true, it shows that President Trump was right about the Federal Reserve. They are too late. And because of the bad numbers, they likely would have been cutting in June. And
this is something I forgot who warned it. I forgot. It was I play his videos a lot on this channel. I probably forgot. You guys will probably remind me in the comment section. He has glasses. He's a firm. He's the one that always talks about how too late Jerome Powell is, and how he pointed out a stat how look at the rates of like our job things are diminishing over time because of the fact that they're holding on to the rates, and he can really accelerate or help boost Trump's economy, especially with the big beautiful bill passing, coinciding with rate cuts. We'll go into an economic boom. And this is where, Trump had to start attacking Jerome Powell, saying, hey, look, man, you're trying to sabotage my agenda. And a part of me believes that he is actually doing this. And it's crazy to hear one of the Federal Reserve governors saying that he may not vote on a rate cut because he thinks that the job numbers are not accurate, or the jobs report in August is not accurate. It just shows you that there was a lot. Trump was justified in firing the head of the BLS. I'm just saying, but I digress. I want to listen more on this, and then we'll wrap it up with my final thoughts after about 2 more minutes.
We believe the numbers. And 4, I can tell you the one thing this administration is not going to do, and we are not going to let the Democrat media surrogates do, is during President Biden, President Harris's campaign, they told the American people, it's a vibe session. You don't understand how good you have it. President Trump was elected for change, and we are going to push through with the economic policies that are going to set the economy right. I believe by the fourth quarter, we're going to see a substantial acceleration.
Okay, well, we'll have you back definitely to check back in with you then. But let me drill down a little bit more on these numbers, Mr. Secretary. The president said that these tariffs are going to spark a manufacturing renaissance, he called it. But since he announced them in April, the U.S. has actually lost 42,000 manufacturing jobs. Are these numbers proof that the tariffs are failing to produce the manufacturing jobs that President Trump promised?
Before he goes, make this make sense, guys. It took decades for the American manufacturing base to lose its prominence in our economy, right? When we became less of a producing economy and more of a service-based economy, it took decades for that to happen. And they think, oh, a couple tariffs in a year. When we started doing tariffs, we started these tariffs in April. So 5 months of tariff, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, manufacturing's coming right back. Come on. Like, let's be serious here. Rome wasn't built in one day. The problem didn't happen in one day. It ain't gonna get fixed in one day. And I think this rush to like, oh, this is my problem with the media, especially the liberal media. They want, when Trump does something, if it doesn't happen fast, they're quick to label it a failure. But when a Democrat's putting up an agenda, right, Biden's economy, hey, we got to do a K-shaped recovery, the media was patient with their predictions and narrative crafting of the outcomes. They were trying to caution you to wait it out. Let's wait and see. But Donald Trump, oh yeah, it didn't happen. It's a failure. Oh, ain't working. Bro, it's only been around for 5 months. It's his first year as president. Like, yo, give it at least give it to his presidency. Y'all didn't even give him halfway through his presidency, and y'all already trying to call it a failure. Make that make sense. It was the same thing with the economy stuff. Oh my God, Trump recession. They saw one quarter. Oh my God, next quarter's a recession, and the next quarter come out, crickets. They're hiding. The economists, where y'all at? Y'all hiding. Hey, I'm just saying, I'm tired of the narrative games, right? And this is why liberal media gets accused of propaganda, liberal propaganda, Democratic news nation. This is where y'all get called out for. News networks, sorry, the Democratic news networks, the MSNBC, sorry, BS Now, NPR, right, ABC, NBC. This is why they get accused of that, because they want to highlight and blow up the bad. And all the good points, they want to throw it out or downplay it or just say, oh, no, that's not relevant to this conversation. They just want you to focus on the negative because they're not interested in informing us truly. They're only interested in coloring our perception. But I digress. Let's continue.
Again, Kristen, it's been a couple of months, and with the manufacturing sector, as you know, we can't snap our fingers and have factories built. So what we're seeing is,
yo, this is what I'm saying, bro. I digress, bro. These people, they want to rush to judgment because they just want you to have a negative perception of what Donald Trump is doing, and that's it. Because that serves a political end for them. That serves them their goals for 2026, so Democrats can have a chance to get power back. This is what I'm talking about. This is the political game. This is the political theater. This is the political storytelling that I accuse liberal media of doing. But I digress.
There's a record amount of investment intentions. We've seen a CapEx boom in the first half of the year, and I think that was actually held back. The One Big Beautiful Bill, which has full expensing for factories and equipment, was passed on July 4th. Many companies were holding back then. So we are going to see construction jobs and we're going to see manufacturing jobs.
But Mr. Secretary, the economy did add nearly 500,000 manufacturing jobs under former President Biden. In this case, since April, again, you're actually losing manufacturing jobs. Is that problematic for your policy?
Well, a couple of things, Chris. We're going to get the revisions for last year next week, and there may be as big as an 800,000 job downward revision. Again, this would be the second downward revision. So I'm not.
This is where these people start losing me. I remember Inauguration Day, Bakari Sellers, when talking to Scott Jennings, was saying that, hey, Trump is inheriting a good economy from Biden, and I was like, these people, they don't stop. And Christian did a similar, like, come on, 500 jobs. And then Scott Bessent, I'm glad he brought that up. Hey, the revisions for last year's jobs report is going to come out, and it may be another 800,000 because we've seen it before in August of 2024 when we lost 818,000 jobs. People started complaining about ghost job in which administration? Not Trump's administration, not Trump 1.0. People started complaining about ghost jobs during the Biden administration. And Christian Walker trying to pretend, oh my God, you're actually losing jobs that Joe Biden helped create. What? No one's going to believe that. As an American, I don't believe that. But I digress. Let's wrap up the video.
Sure, what these people who collect the data have been doing, it's good. We need good data. Secondly, what we are seeing is the jobs that are being created are going to either native-born or legal Americans. Most of the jobs created under the Biden administration, they went to illegal aliens.
Hey, look, hey, there's something to it, because the data's corresponding with Trump's mass deportation, and liberals are outraged, or they try to cast this narrative that, oh, Trump's job numbers are being hurt due to his mass deportation. But then Trump, and this is the framing that as an American, I believe that we should like this a fact, is that native born Americans or people born in America, that they got majority of the new jobs coming out, and a lot of the foreign born workers are losing those jobs. We should see that as a good thing. We should see that as, oh, Trump's America First agenda is actually doing what it's supposed to do, prioritize the needs of the American people, right? And I think that's a good highlight, that the Trump administration continues pushing the Democrats back when they keep complaining about the job numbers. This is why I'm not too rattled by the job numbers, but I would give some credence to some concerns that Americans have, my fellow Americans have, about the job numbers. It's like, Kenny, who cares if we're guaranteed a rate cut now? It's too late. Jerome Powell should have done this back in August, back in April even. Some people are even saying that's how soon Jerome Powell should have been cutting rates. But he was too late, and now we're suffering a negative consequence. But I think this is recoverable. I don't think it's as bad as the media is trying to project it to be. But, Democrats, the media, they're always trying to find a way to, hurt Trump in a way. And I feel like a lot of the negative journalism or negative news that comes out, I always have to take a step back and see, okay, is there a political interest to, highlight this fact? Is it actually to warn American people and say, hey, look, Trump's policy might need a redirection, might need an adjustment? Or is it too early to call? And right now, I believe that the job numbers, the negativity of it is too early to call. Out of what 8 months since Trump been president, he got 3 bad reports, and even then they weren't that bad. I'll give it some time. Like I said, I'm giving till Trump at least 2026 to see the results of his policy. I think that's a good enough time horizon to make a more accurate judgment and assumption on future progress. And I think any fear-mongering from the left or the media is merely for political gain. But I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts and opinions about the job numbers, the weak job numbers, the rate cuts. Do you believe that the Fed chair actually is trying to sabotage Trump's economy, and probably contributed to the weak job numbers report? I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video if you're so inclined. It really does help me out in the algorithm, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.